listening to a download from the outdoorstation.co.uk. Number 400.
Hello and welcome back to the Outdoor Station. Yesterday, on Sunday the 16th of August 2015, I drove up north of Manchester to catch up with Aleks Kashefi, the subject of my last podcast, number 399, to meet him exactly at the halfway point in his interesting and exciting barefoot running journey from Land's End to John O'Groats. The drive from my home in Malvern, which is just south of Birmingham, to Cowling, just over the North Yorkshire border, in total was 163 miles. There I was, travelling as fast as the speed limit would allow me, along with thousands of other people, all rushing along the main motorway artery of Great Britain, all in a hurry to get somewhere fast. Aleks, of course, by contrast, is travelling light, slow, and barefoot, and I was considering what I'd find when I finally met up with him. Would he literally be footsore and weary of the journey, or tired in some way, ready to take comfort and return to an easier life? His story makes for fascinating reading, and I hope these podcasts shed more light on his trip, help you visualise the enormity of the challenge before him, and gives you an insight into his spirit, which is shining through so clearly. So do log on to the Outdoors Station website to get all the links to his blog, the live tracker feed, and the Just Giving page. So this is the conversation when we finally met after I cooked him a large pasta meal to set him up for the rest of the day. So, day 22, and I finally meet Aleks face to face, serve him up a big meal on the side of the road down a little village lane just outside of Cowling, which is near Cowling, and I've passed the dotted line which said North Yorkshire, so I'm in North Yorkshire but only just, and Aleks is looking remarkably well. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well, yeah.
So how's it going then? That's 22 days, over 500 miles of a 1,000-mile target. You're looking remarkably well, especially after your interesting start.
Yeah.
Just give me a bit of an update on how you're feeling now, and we'll just backtrack a bit.
Feeling all right. Feeling really good. Nothing really hurts. Equipment works. I know what I'm doing generally water-wise. I know how much I need to eat. It's good. It's a nice place to be.
You're in a very positive state of mind.
Yeah. I think I have to be after the distance you've covered. You know that you can pretty much keep going no matter what happens. As long as nothing breaks off me and it detaches, I think I'll be able to keep going.
Well, you've had a few moments there sitting there as I was rustling up the pasta, picking things out of your feet and thorns and telling me about glass and various stories like that. Obviously, I think most people would be curious to know, all really, about the feet. How have they coped with the variety of terrain? And, I mean, you're looking strong, your feet are looking great, nothing's really patched up. You had a bit of a problem with the tendon there at the back, but that was at the beginning. We'll come on to that. But the feet themselves, tell me about your feet.
Feet are all right. They get a bit swollen if I overdo it a bit.
What is overdoing it now?
Overdoing it is, well, running on really hard terrain really fast. So if I'm walking or whatnot, they generally don't swell up or anything. Occasionally pick up a thorn or two, but you kind of know you've picked it up. It bothers you for about, 3 or 4 metres, and then it stops bothering you. So you just wait and hope that you can see it later on. If not, if you leave it and keep poking where it generally hurts, it kind of starts to fester enough for you to go, there it is, and you can get it out.
Right.
It's no different to getting splinters in your hands and popping them out when they're ready to come out.
Yeah, I think, but I know you're used to it now, but you've got to appreciate, people are listening to this have just got to visualise you've done 500 miles of assorted terrain, coastal paths, cross-country roads, and you're just talking as if you're just taking your shoes off for 2 minutes and you've got a bit of a thorn in. It's psychologically, it's hard to visualise what your feet have been through. So just give me a bit of a rundown, because I know you had a tough first few days, tough week. Just explain to people what it was like starting at Land's End.
It was mainly the weather, really windy, gusty gales. Started in the morning with the tent sort of flapping around like someone was kicking the outside of it, and then one of the pegs pinged out, which then weaken the rest of the pegs. So while I'm in the tent, it's sort of all unripping out the ground. I had to really quickly, I just packed everything into my bag, any old how, got it in the dry bag, and then jumped out and stuffed the tent into another dry bag, jumped into a friend's van and sat there for about, 2 hours, 3 hours with the van rocking side to side, and you could hear the rain pelting at it, thinking, right, either go or I delay it for a day. And I think it got to about 9 o'clock. I went, I'm sick of sitting here. Come on, let's go. It was like walking through some kind of apocalypse movie through that little Land's End bit, which is completely empty. But there's, I don't know, Shaun the Sheep.
Yeah, yes. You shared Shaun the Sheep too. Yeah.
I did. I nearly went in.
And the start-finish line, going, well, that's the last time I see that.
Yeah, the start-finish line was in the wrong place. I went along the coast.
Yeah.
But yeah, sort of first day was hard because of the weather. The terrain was quite tough, but generally you kind of push on, and because the paths, the coast paths, so sort of weaving in and out of the, it meanders a lot. It would say sort of 3 miles that way, and you'd map it and it'd say 4 miles, but then you run it and it would take you a lot longer. So distance-wise, I think I covered more than the sort of 28 miles that I was supposed to, even though point to point it was 28 miles or 24 miles. And then the day after, it was really blustery. I ended up getting chucked into a... they have these kind of stone stiles. They're not really stiles as such. It's just a stone in the way. I think it's just to stop slow people down. Got chucked into that, caught the top of my left foot, landed a bit funny on my right foot, had a bit of a grumpy moment because it kind of hurt. Carried on, but the top of my left foot really swelled up, and then as a result, compensating for sort of three days after that, I've ended up with a bit of an issue with my right tendon. But it gets better because I've done a lot of walking, and it seemed to be getting a lot better than it was. Right.
So is it still bothering you now?
It will do occasionally if I push too much. If I run too much of the terrain, particularly downhill where you're really loading that tendon up, it will start to let me know that it's there. It doesn't really hurt as such, but it creaks. You can really feel it creaking, so you can feel the tendon moving in and out of the actual sheath that surrounds it. But that's just kind of what tendonitis is. There's nothing you can do about it, but rest, apparently.
You've been in contact with a physio, I know, that's sort of giving you online help, as it were, and advice, and they advise you massage the painful part, I go.
Well, he told me to ignore the right, because I was really focusing on my right leg with the tendon. He told me to completely ignore that and sort out my other foot. He swore when he said it, but he said squeeze the heck out of it. Yeah. So I kind of did that with some climbing tape that I had, just strapped climbing tape around my foot, moved it backwards and forwards for a good minute or so, just to move the fluid off it, and it got the swelling down quite a bit. And strapped, sort of used climbing tape to do it's called K-tapes, like what physios do. Right. Just put a piece of tape over the tendon just to support its movement.
Right.
And then pushed on. It wasn't until I got to Cheddar and met up with some people who had offered me a place to stay that I asked for a piece of rubber. I've got an inner tube now, so what I'm doing, just to keep any swelling under control, I'm wrapping my feet up really tight if anything's sort of giving me any issues.
Right.
And just moving the joint backwards and forwards just to force any extra fluid out of my foot. But the physio's been really good, actually. A guy called Nick Allen from Buxton Physio. He came up yesterday to drop off some nice self-adhesive tape. So if my feet are getting slightly swollen, which they will do, I think anyone doing long distance knows, at the end of the long distance walk or run, your feet will swell up. There's nothing you can do about it. But the tape sort of sticks to itself, and I'm to wrap my feet up every night for an hour.
Oh, wow.
Just put them up.
Put your feet up. It's not as if you've got anything else to do.
No. Well, as long as I get there early enough. Yeah. No, I don't.
Well, that's brilliant. So, I mean, that accident aside, and the occasional thorn and bit of glass and small gritty things, which obviously just get in and worry your skin, you're in good shape.
I think so. I think I'm better shape than I was.
Yeah? Have you lost so much weight?
Not really. I weighed myself at a friend's house because I was passing through. I've not seen them for sort of 15, nearly 20 years. So that was really nice to see them. But they had a little electronic scale that measures your body fat. Okay. And I stood on that. Bearing in mind, I'd eaten a full meal, had a couple of pints of water and a pint of beer, stood on it. It said 77 kilos, which is 2 kilos more than I would be normally. But that could be accounted for by, a kilo and a half of liquid and then some food. But my body fat percentage has dropped to 13%, whereas my muscle's gone up slightly. Right. So I've not actually moved my weight. All that's happened is my I've used the fat that I had as reserves, and I've put on muscle to compensate for the weight of the pack.
But I mean, by using up all your fats, you haven't actually got into any sort of mental breakdown at all. You're keeping you're managing to keep the input of carbohydrates and the food with you. You're sort of eating a bit ad hoc, obviously, as you go along. You've got the Trailwind stuff as well.
Yeah.
But you're managing to balance out your body's needs against as it transfers and creates more muscle.
I must be. I've not really eaten a lot of protein either, which is bizarre. I've not. In terms of food, I think first week I could list the meals I'd eaten, what I'd actually eaten on my hands. I'd eaten less than 10 items of food. And it was something like 3 pasties, 1 pork pie, 2 Scotch eggs, and that was it, as far as I can remember, for the first 4 or 5 days. And the rest was just the odd occasion of the Tailwind, just keeping the sugar levels at a reasonable level, just so my body can use the fat, because to utilise the fat, you need the sugar to kickstart the engine, as it were,
right.
And just clock it on. It seemed to working really well.
When were you craving fruit or veg or salads or anything like that at all? Or don't you eat that normally anyway?
I do. I normally eat lots of fresh veg and stuff. Normally everything I eat's freshly prepared, almost raw, pretty much. Not really. I just grabbed what I could. I did when I got to the Somerset Levels, just because it's everywhere, and I went for a field of broad beans, so it was there. I picked some broad beans, had some fresh broad beans for my dinner, and there was baby sweet corn in the field, so
one fell into your pack.
I had some that were on the floor, ended up in my hand, and then I ate them. Apples off trees that are grown on the
right,
just in the middle of fields or hanging over someone's fence, where you can actually pick them or get some windfallen ones. So I've done all right for fruit. I've kind of got stuff off the land. It's been really good.
It's really interesting, that, because I speak to a lot of people that do. I say a lot of people, quite a few people that do Land's End to John O'Groats, and it's always their big preparation, their big planning ahead, and they spreadsheet everything out, where they're eating this and what food they're picking up and sending stuff ahead and whatever else. And it's really cool to speak to someone that's actually go, well, you can actually manage it if you graze a bit and use your intelligence.
Yeah, it's pretty much it. If you know, like yesterday, I ended up at. Not yesterday, the day before, I was at Dunford Bridge. I ended at Dunford Bridge, and there's nothing there. So what I did was I bought a pork pie and a pasty, because I know that they store really well. There's protein, there's carbs, there's fat. There's what you need in a tiny little package. I basically grabbed one of each, stuck them in my pack, along with an apple and a banana, just from some nice passerby, and I kept them till the morning, when I was at Dunford Bridge and leaving Dunford Bridge, because I knew there was nothing till I pretty much got to Hebden Bridge. And they saw me through, along with obviously the sugary Tailwind that I've got, which I've just put in water. So it's almost like really dilute juice that you're drinking. But yeah, even the amount of water, I don't really need that much water. That's come from when I actually fell over. I lost my water filter.
Oh, God,
I didn't realise, because I was having a bit of a moment. I just stomped off. But I lost my water filter on day 2. And, to get across the Somerset Levels, and the really, really warm days, and only need like a litre maximum, I think, 1.5 litres I drank on one of the hottest days, and not feel dehydrated is quite interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, you're told 2 litres a day, and you must do this for every so-and-so amount of time of heavy...
Well, there's a lot of what you're doing, not to say goes against, but a lot of what you're doing is interesting to compare against what we are told in the outdoors world, running, cycling, whatever, about what you should do and must do and whatever else. I mean, you're a biology teacher, so surely you must be analysing the effect it's having on your body and your input versus what you're needing, and comparing it to your normal, working life.
I have done. No, I think we eat too much. We eat and drink far too much. I'm not sure we need to.
No.
But the thing is, I think you get used to that amount of food going in. So when it's not going in, you have a bit of a low. So then you put it in. And I've had a few bits where I've been really, really quite low and tired. And all I've done is have something with caffeine and a tiny bit of sugar in. And suddenly my brain's going, well, okay, everything's okay. Nothing hurts now. Off you go. Not a problem. So that's another aspect of it. Is sort of not listening to your brain so much.
Right.
So at Offers Dyke, ran for quite a lot of the first section, because it's just amazing. The first section of Offers Dyke out of Chepstow is incredible. Then it came to a really steep hill, and my legs were saying we're aching, my hips were saying we're aching, feet were sort of going, yeah, we're throbbing. All I did was lie down for 5 minutes with my head down the hill, so my feet were up without having to worry about it. Had some water, enjoyed the view for 5 minutes, and then got up and went, oh, there you go, sorted, off we go, and just carried on.
Amazing.
Find out how easy it is to subscribe to all our free programmes. Visit our website at theoutdoorstation.co.uk or look us up on Facebook.
And talking about terrain then, you know, halfway through, 500 miles, half the UK. I've never done it. I know what the coastal path's like, I know what Offa's like, and I'm not too sure about this part of the world, but certainly a bit further north, and certainly Scotland. You know, what clumps have you discovered about the UK? Has anything come as a surprise as regards what you were anticipating?
I wouldn't say surprise, all of it was kind of new. It's interesting, because Cornwall's really, the coastal path on Cornwall's really rugged, it's really rocky. And it starts granite, and then it kind of becomes slate, and then further up it suddenly becomes sandstone, and then you've hit Devon, because it's suddenly sort of brown earth on the coastal path. Right. You're going through the little tree section just after Clovelly, which is really pretty, but it's mud suddenly. And before that, there was no muddy sections. It was mostly rocky, sandy dirt on the ground and sort of scree, if you like. Then you hit the flats. The flats are quite dull. It's mostly road. And sort of salt marshes. But then after that, it was all rolling hills going through Exmoor. And it was similar to here, actually, just no peat, no bogs, which was interesting, because I was expecting lots of bogs through Exmoor. None of that. Onto the levels, it's all farmland. It's kind of gradually changing. It's bizarre, because it's almost like it's changing depending on what it's been used for.
Right.
Okay. The Welsh, you hit the Welsh hills, and compared to Exmoor was just huge fields, just with sheep on them, or deer, or whatever the cattle was at the time. And then you hit Wales, and there's lots of little boxes all over the hills. Same shaped hills, same sized hills. It's just all boxed into little sections, almost like a patchwork that someone's decided. And then here, those boxes are there, but they're slightly bigger. And then there's patches where there is no boxes whatsoever. It's just open moorland. So it's interesting how it's all changing gradually.
Has there been a favourite on the way so far?
I quite like the harsh steep terrain. So I really like the stony bits at the start.
Okay.
I'd love to go back and just run them for the sake of it.
That surprised me, because after the start that you had, I thought psychologically you'd think, I hated that bit just because of the weather, if nothing else. Because I mean, wet stone is very slippy. I'm amazed you kept your grip.
It wasn't too bad, slippy wise. Granite's quite coarse.
Okay.
The slippiest stones were coming down into the Cheddar Gorge, because I went up the side and down into it. And that's limestone, and limestone that's walked on just becomes polished and slippy. No matter what you do, you're not going to stick to it. That was kind of slippy, but I think you kind of get used to having no grip. So you don't rely on the grip. You don't tend to lean back as much. I've had a few slips. I think I fell over twice onto my backside, because it was a really steep hill, and I decided to lean back to try and take a photo. Right. Just slipped onto my bum. Didn't really hurt or anything. Wasn't like a major, slip over and have an accident or anything. But then I just made sure I was being a bit more careful with how I was walking, or where I was putting my feet.
And you'd said earlier on you'd had a few interesting encounters with different animals, in particular some deer. Yep. Tell me a bit about that.
Walking up from Craven Arms onto Wentlock Edge, it's quite a wide path. It's really rutted, because it's a bridleway, so clearly someone with a horse had gone up it, and it was muddy and quite squelchy. And I was kind of just picking my way up it, just with my stick, having a moment in the woods, and then looked to my left, and about 1 or 2 metres away max, there was just a couple of deer walking along a ridge. First one was a stag. I think he had a doe behind him, but he had fresh antlers, so they were all nice and furry, and it was close enough for me to be able to see all this sort of detail. Walked for about 50 to 100 metres before I decided, actually, I'd like a photo of this moment, because this is the nonsense you see in films that you go, that's never happened. So I walked up a hill with a deer. I've seen a few stoats. That was quite nice. I think I've seen an eagle, but I'm not sure, because the markings underneath weren't They weren't a buzzard. It wasn't a kite because the tail was wrong. So I'm gonna have to Google it later.
Yeah, well, I've seen a couple of eagles, and the first thing that you tend to think of, it's a hang glider.
It was massive.
It's huge.
It was huge,
Yeah.
but there was it had quite a lot of white underneath it. And I sort of went, oh, I've never seen a bird that big with quite a lot of white, and it wasn't. You could tell it was a bird of prey just because the pointing, the shape of the wings and the beak and whatnot. Got pestered by a kite going through. I think I must have been I don't know, near where it eats or whatnot. Just coming out of, I think that was coming out of Knighton. But it just kept circling around and screeching at me. But then I saw loads of little baby pheasants looking like little dinosaurs, like scuttling along the path, not being able to go anywhere because there is no way off. I was just walking along, they'd run along and stop. Oh, and I got followed by sheep and cattle going through the Somerset Levels. It's very bizarre. A whole field full of sheep just followed me across the entire field. And if I stopped and turned around, they'd stop.
They'd look the other way.
But it was almost like a...
Shaun the Sheep job, is it?
Yeah, almost. And then I sort of went, OK, I'll carry on. I did a little video of it because it was just the weirdest thing ever.
Well, talking of making friends as you go along, have you made any other friends, running companions or walkers that have sort of helped you along the way?
Not really runners or walkers. There's been a couple of people that follow the Facebook page. They've tracked me down, come along. A guy called Chris, when I got to Dunford Bridge, I wasn't, I didn't have any food, and I did have a bit of water, so the mission for the next day was to go out and find the nearest shop, get some supplies in case of emergencies and get some water. But this guy called Chris, who was local to the area, found where I was because I forgot to turn my tracker off before I pitched up, and just appeared with a bottle of beer and various food items, which was really, really nice. And then Mountain Rescue, a guy called Mike from the local Mountain Rescues, he appeared in the morning just to make sure I'm all right if I needed anything. Brought some coffee, which was nice, so I had some coffee in the morning. Met a few guys in a pub called the All Nations Inn in Coalport. Amazing bunch of people. A really old fella called Mike kind of blew my head a little bit by firstly struggling to rise when he shook my hand, which was like, whoa, you don't need to do that. And he's like, I really do. And he said a few things to his friend who kept going on about, oh, get up at 6 o'clock, make your coffee. And he just turned around to his friend and went, don't talk about it, just do it. And then followed that with, and if you don't, I am never speaking to you again. And you can believe that I mean what I'm saying. And he's like, oh, okay. But he had quite, for someone of that age and to struggle to get up, it just kind of, I don't know, it changes the way you think about stuff a little bit.
I mean, you should have a respect from people for that doing what you're doing. I mean, you're raising a lot of money for a good cause. I mean, certainly the tracker thing's been quite interesting, being able to find where you were today and meet up with you. So I suggest that anybody that's interested in doing that for you between now and John O'Groats, they should keep an eye on your blog page, which will be mentioned at the end of the podcast, and also it's on the website as well. And I'm sure you're grateful of any food and nutrition and other supplements as you go along.
Yeah, anything. I'm grabbing what I can at the moment. People they don't need to. There's no definite need to, but it is nice when someone just appears and hands you something and you're like, oh, what's this? Oh, thank you very much. Who are you?
Well, it saves you. I mean, I know the grazing you've been doing, obviously, with the apples and stuff, but I mean, it's getting to a stage now where you just showed me some Haribo you grazed off the side of the road that somebody had ditched.
Well, they were a present from Physio. He met me yesterday just to give me some bits and bobs, and he just went, have a pack of Haribo. But no, on the way to Much Wenlock, I'd run out of water almost. I've had a few mishaps where I've poured the water into my water bottle, gone to put the tailwind, and just for the water bottle to tip over. So I've ended with half the amount I had, which is why I know I don't need quite as much water as people say. But I was running along the road because the actual Wenlock Edge path just got absolutely drenched, and a lot of it's quite steep, so there was just water pouring from higher up on the hills, and it was a case of, right, I'm going to get even wetter if I stay here. So I got put on the road. Ran along the road. There was a packet of opened Haribos that someone had either chucked or got rid of. They were dry. They were all right. Just ate them.
The modern version of roadkill.
You don't, yeah. Well, yeah. Roadkill Haribo. Thing is, it's food, and that's kind of how I'm looking at certain things. It's, well, I need sugar, so sugar's going in. I need the fat in that, so that's going to go in. It's you know, I wouldn't say surviving off a pint of Coke and...
Well, have you ever, to do it the other way around, have you ever so far in these last 3 weeks been really, really thirsty or really, really hungry to a point of going, I'm desperate for something now?
Not massively desperate, no.
So, I mean, that's been a success just purely from that point of view, isn't
definitely. I know when I did some training, I did go off on a couple of really long runs on sort of warm days, and I didn't take any water. So I know when you're desperate, because you look at the tiniest little puddle and go, I could drink that. I wonder if I could drink that. I've not been to that stage yet. I've been close, where I've thought, right, I need to find somewhere with water now. But I mean, if you keep your nounce about you as opposed to panic, there's taps everywhere. If you're going through any village, there'll be a tap somewhere. And there was a section, I think it was just sort of getting out of the Somerset Flats, because you kind of climb up one hill. It's just a random hill in the middle of nowhere that I went up. And there was a farmhouse that had a little shack. On the side of the shack was a tap. Just quickly filled up my water bottle. There was no one about. There's no one actually in the property. And just went off. And I've got a water filter now again. So.
Oh, right, so you're sort of on that front.
Yeah, I don't really need to... I'm not even sure I need to carry all the water I've got at the moment.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about the packing and stuff in a minute. But tell me about your daily routine, or explain to people what your daily routine is now, the whole process, because... you know, the sort of time you're rising and the things you're doing. You're telling me about the mapping and so on, and just to give people more an idea of actually what it involves, not just purely the running. Yeah.
Okay. Well, generally get up. I set my alarm for about 5:30ish, but I'm normally up and about sort of about 6, just after 6. Pack the tent down. If it needs sort of just wiping down, I've got a sort of a micro towel, so I'll just get that as much moisture off it as I can before I pack it away. Generally get my bed out of there, get everything packed up. Tent goes away last. Make sure, because I've taken the actual backing out of the pack to make the pack lighter, so things like my sleeping bag, my bed, and my dry bag with my warm top, they're sort of at the back where my back is, so I've got back support built in for the stuff I'm carrying, and then it's pack up, follow the map to the next location, and then when I get there in the evenings, if I can, I'll find somewhere that has electricity so I can charge my phone up. If I can't, I've got a spare power bank, so I'll just use that as backup. Download the maps I need on the OS phone app, the Ranger versions, because you get a bit more for your money. Download the sections I need, sit there and just plot my route all the way along. See how long it is roughly, because it's not massively accurate. It's usually a lot under, because you can't follow the path exactly. And just basically have a look, see if there's any pubs along the way that you could pop into, get water, any food along the way. Put them in as planned stops, although depending on how I go, there might not be a planned stop at all. And then just go to bed around, it depends on the night. Some of the nights I think I went to bed at 1 at the latest, and then got up the next day about 6, and then carried on. I think sleep's the most important thing. But once you realise it's tiredness that's causing you to be a little bit low and a little bit grumpy and struggling to get along, you tend to kind of manage it by just having some caffeine.
I mean, you've done mostly while camping, haven't you?
Pretty much, yeah.
I think you've only said or implied you stayed somewhere a couple, 2-3 nights, perhaps?
I think Clavell, I stayed in a field just outside of a holiday village, a TP holiday village in Cornwall. I'm not sure if I'd class that as wild camping, but it was still camping. I had a place in Clavell, just randomly, the locals in the pub, sat there chatting to them. I asked them whether there was any suitable places to go and wild camp. They told me there was a little shelter at the top, which I was more than happy with. It's great, I don't have to pitch my tent, I can just get in the shelter and be out the way and no one's going to bother me. But they ended up putting me up in the night in the B&B that's there. At Barnstable, a friend was meeting me anyway, because I'd injured myself and I knew I needed to stop. He put me up for the night in Croyd. He drove me out to Croyd and spent 2 days on the beach.
Right.
Where else was there? Knighton. Got a bed and got picked up by a friend in Knighton. So everything else has been wild.
Yeah, what I was
The home of UK-based audio and video podcasts for for lovers of the great outdoors everywhere.
It's all about getting out and having much more fun.
How was the wild camping? How have you found it? Have any reaction from people?
No one's really seen me. It's been fairly comfortable. I've picked a couple of bum spots along the way. One in if you're ever in Monmouth, get out of Monmouth if you want a wild camp, because there's just nothing around it.
Right.
The little village before called Redbrook, brilliant, loads of space for wild camping. Monmouth, it's a built-up town pretty much. It's not very big, but it's built up. And what I ended up doing was going into some woods, because I just happened to see a little track, and it was getting late and it was getting dark, and I thought I just need to get it to bed. And in this little woods, there's a random shack thing with a sofa. Someone had dragged in a little table with tea lights all over it. The sort of thing that you see and go, I don't want to be in this wood.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. There was a really cheap pop-up tent pitched up just to the right of this thing.
Okay.
And I basically just traipsed as far to the left as I could, climbed over a fallen tree, climbed under another fallen tree, and then went up onto a sort of little mud bank, which was really soft. So putting pegs into the ground was ridiculous. I ended up tying the tent up to various bits and bobs just so I could get in it, and then got in it, and it was on an angle as well. Yeah. So I was sort of rocked to one side all night. But apart from that, it's been good. No one's really found me. I think one person found me in the field and asked me if I had a good night. I was like, yeah, this is great, thanks.
Yeah. Have you been up to see the sunrises then?
I've seen a couple, yeah. In fact, sunrise is the one I see normally. Sunset's the one that I've not got so many of, because normally I'm finishing in a town or a village, and you tend to head in to find food and water.
So you go into a town or village, find food and water, go to the pub or whatever it is, and then you just sort of ask for a wild spot and sort of head on the outskirts.
I'm just finding them.
Is that generally how you look at it?
Yeah, I'm kind of finding them now. I'm getting better at finding them. Look at the map, have a look where there's no buildings, work out what the terrain's going to be, whether it's flat or a ridiculous slope, and then walk off. Usually, if you walk along a bridle way or a footpath, it's got fields either side, and then you just find a quiet spot that's out the way. Make sure you don't leave any trace of yourself. That's the one thing I've really enjoyed. It's next day, no one would know I'm there unless they turn up right after I've left and I see a patch of dry grass where everything else is covered in dew. It's quite a nice way to exist.
Yeah. Oh, talking of which, you said when I interviewed you last time that your budget was £10 a day. Obviously, you've been spending wildly on your pasties and your pork pies and your pints of beer. How's the budget going?
Going really well. I mean, some days I've not spent any money at all, really. I think I'm trying to remember how much I've got left. It was about 350. I think I've got about 200 quid left. So it's quite a lot out of that budget. Technically, 15 days worth of money is gone, whereas I'm on day 22, and I've still got 200. Well, I've got £400, including my £50 emergency, which I haven't spent yet.
Oh, right. Excellent. Well, I hope it stays that way anyway.
Well, yeah, I do. It's working quite nicely. Yeah. I think the thing is, if you are buying food wherever you can, a pork pie costs you £1, £2 max. A pasta usually costs £1 or £2 max, and a pork pie's got a lot of calories in it. So it's nearly 1,500, 2,000 calories for a medium-sized pork pie.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And if you've got the fat on your body as well that you can burn off, then you don't really need that many calories. I'm not saying it's going to be sustainable long term, but 22 days in, I don't think things are falling apart yet.
No, well, you don't seem to be in any shape or form sort of weary. You're not just not talking. You're not just sort of your body movements and the way you're moving. You're not weary at all. In fact, you're ready to go now, and I'm boring you. I can tell.
You do get itchy feet then quickly.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, let's go on to equipment then very quickly. You went through your list last interview about what you were taking with you. How has everything performed?
Everything's been really good. The most difficult part, because the tent is so small, but it's the same with any tent, is getting enough ventilation into it so that it doesn't, you don't get condensation on the inside.
But it means for a small, lightweight gold
tent, it's amazing. Yeah. I really like the tent. I've pitched it up without pinning out the doors. I've pitched it up just leaving the doors wide open, so almost like a lean-to shelter.
Mm-hmm.
I've managed to pitch it up without putting any pegs in the ground and just tying it to trees and whatnot, kind of like a teepee, not a teepee, a tarp almost.
Yeah.
But it's working really, really well. The issue I had with pegs is because I've swapped the pegs out for some Terra Nova pegs, which are almost like pins.
Oh, yeah.
But a friend of mine on the first day went, well, maybe you should just bend them back on themselves slightly. So what I've got is the majority of the tent peg's still straight, but where the head is, I've bent it up to about a 45-degree angle.
Right.
So when it goes in the ground, the way it's pulled stops the peg from spinning. It just pulls it and ends up hooking up. So I've not had the issue of them pinging out anymore.
Oh, so it's like a staple almost.
Almost, yeah. It's I don't know why most pegs don't come like that, because it works really, really well.
That's good.
You can have a really small peg that actually will hold on to quite a lot of pressure. The cooker's been amazing as well.
Good.
I've not really cooked. It's not cooking really, putting hot water into some noodles or something. Yeah. But I've used it a few times, make cups of tea and coffee and that, and it's just been bang on. You just pop it on, it heats up the water nice and quickly, and then you can just pour the liquid, the rest of the alcohol, back into your pot and away
so
it goes.
That's the siphon stove inside the pocket stove, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great because along with my little flint thing, I forgot what they're called, it all fits in my nice little MSR titanium kettle.
Yeah. So, and plus the meths as well.
Yeah, everything's in there. I've got
Brilliant.
space for something else.
Yeah, you can put some food in there.
Yeah, I could. But it works really well. Really, really useful actually. Admittedly, I've not used it a massive amount of times, but I'm not going to get rid of it.
No,
it's
a nice little combination, isn't it?
Yeah.
You said you were cold last night. How is the sleeping bag and the Thermartex blanket working for you?
The Thermatex, I think, is the only thing that kept. I pulled it over me last night. The sleeping bag I've got is a Yeti I've borrowed off someone who said, it's great, it's really, really warm and whatnot. I think last night and the night before there were two particularly cold nights, and I was kind of a bit damp, I think, when I got in. So what I need to do today when I've got to Thornton is just get everything out, find a little spot, get everything out, and just get it all aired, get it nice and dry again, as it were.
Right.
I think that was the issue with why I was cold. But the blanket's really good. Sat at the side of the roadside yesterday, waiting for someone to turn up, and just wrapped myself up in it, and had a quick 20 minutes sleep while I waited. And it was pretty cold yesterday up on the hills with the wind blasting. So it's all working out really well, actually.
Excellent. So there's nothing really that, apart from losing the filter, which you did early on with that accident, there's nothing that's immediately you seem to be negative about equipment-wise?
No, not at all. It's all working really, really well. I think there's extra odds and sods that I'm carrying, like some Weleda nappy cream in case there's any chafage issues or anything like that, and it's called Body Glide, which you put on to stop chafing in the first place. I've not really had to use them. And there's a few other bits and bobs in there, like chargers for phone and camera charger and stuff, which are extra weight, which if you wanted to do this really lightweight, then you wouldn't take your phone, you wouldn't take the charger. Although the phone's great, just because the maps are all on there. I've got maps all the way from Barnstable way, just before Barnstable, the first start of Devonshire.
I was going to ask you, with the mapping, you haven't actually plotted it out beforehand, so there's no GPS line already on your phone, even though the map's not underneath it, as it were. So you're actually getting the maps and going, right, there's the path, I've got to take that path there. So
and
although you've planned it beforehand,
this
is the first time you're sort of seeing the map in detail.
This is definitely the first time I've seen a map in detail. It's nice, though, because I said from the start, this is the general route, I'm going to go from here to here to here, but the bit in between, I don't know what I'm going to see. I might not be able to get up on that path. It might be blocked, or it might be that the terrain's covered in glass and I get bored of the terrain or something. Offers Dyke, once you get past the first initial up and down bits to Monmouth, after that it becomes like rolling fields, which if you're doing miles and miles of rolling fields, it kind of gets to you a little bit. And I thought, well, I'm in Wales, I want to see a bit more of Wales. So I went off path, which is when I found out that the Offers Dyke path has completely destroyed all the other paths because no one goes on them anymore. So farmers chain things up because it's all overgrown and it's never used. One person, I came off one path, and I had to apologise to someone because I had to jump over a wall to get out the field, and said, I'm really sorry, but there's just no way I can get out of this field. But there's a path on the map, and they went, yeah, it's because no one's been on it for years.
Wow.
It's like, oh, okay. And then at that point, I nearly got evangelical, like, you must get out on your paths, go and walk. But it's nice. Like today, the plan was just to follow the Pennine Way. But at one point I looked at it and went, well, the Pennine Way goes way out over there just to come back again. All right, there's a bit of a hill in front of me, but I'm going to go up this hill. There's going to be a view on top of that hill. I was skirting around this hill. I'm going to miss out on that view, and it was. The view was amazing. I forgot what reservoir it was, but there was just a big expanse of reservoirs in front of you. Nice heather heathland in front of you as well. It's just great.
Well, I must ask people to check out your blog, because you are doing a daily update where you can with the signal and stuff, with your pictures and little stories as they go along, and some of those video clips you mentioned earlier on, and I've seen those there as well with Sean the sheep. And also the photographs you're taking are much higher quality with your other camera, which I presume are all going to be available at the end in some format or other for people to look at and explore.
Yeah, I think I've in my head planned a little kind of a cross between a picture book and a book. I don't really want to write a book, and I'm not sure what by now it's all much of a muchness. I'm just getting up and going, well, let's move. And coming over the top of the hill just earlier on, I was walking along going, this is a weird sensation, because I don't feel like I'm moving. I feel like I'm stood still, but the terrain's moving past me, and I'm just in the same spot all the time. And I think that's just a perception of time thing. But it'll be kind of a little book with little bits from each day, sort of highlight of the day, or a little basically kind of stuff that I've been writing in a little journal I've been carrying. Although I've neglected it last few days just because it takes a bit of time to sit and put pen to paper. But,
well, I have to say, Alex, I do admire what you've done, and it's been very interesting to be associated with it, but stand back and actually watch the changes that's going through you mentally as well as physically, and also the practical things you're discussing and explaining as you go along the length of this country of ours. And I think the whole the whole exercise is very, very interesting.
It's pretty much an experiment.
But I think a lot of people that have been, as we were talking earlier on, a lot of people have been told over the years that you must have boots and you must have shoes and you must have this and you must have that and you must have water and you must have food and you must have so-and-so. Well, yeah, but it's in the right, it's actually listening to your body, what it needs, as opposed to going, well, I must have my 2,000 calories a day and I must have these boots and I must have so-and-so, because I'm only just going to walk up, across the top of the hill there. Yeah,
I don't think we evolved to must have 2,000 calories a day. We're hunter-gatherers, really, aren't we?
Yeah.
So hunter-gatherers generally find something, hunt it, eat it, then go without food for a long time before they find something else and eat it. But it's like learning to... I've been very tempted to pick nettles as I've been coming along, because I know I can make nettle tea out of them, or I could make a nice little nettle soup. Blackberries down south, they're in season. Just Bristol wasn't the nicest part, but I got a hefty amount of fruit for blackberries and raspberries as well, just walking along the paths there. So it's knowing that you've got food all around you and just picking it and eating it.
Well, with that in mind, I better get the hunter-gatherer back on his path and send you on your way to see what you can scavenge before stopping tonight at Thornbury. But it's been a pleasure to catch up with you. I wish you all the well and success, and congratulations for getting as far as you have. But really, the state you're in generally, I think, is phenomenal. Really, you're in a good place. You're in a very good place. So I'm hoping that you'll remain that way all the way through to John O'Groats.
Should do. I think the stuff that's happened kind of opens your eyes a little. It does tell you, okay, this is going wrong. Well, fix it then. Stop whinging. Don't moan, get on with it. It's kind of the attitude I've developed, I think, for myself. Just hope it doesn't transfer into my teaching, because I'm going to be really intolerant of anything. You, stop moaning, get on with it.
As you can probably tell, I found Alex definitely in a good place. He was strong, positive, and with feet which were in surprisingly good shape. In fact, when you look at the pictures, you certainly wouldn't think they had just covered 500 miles. Again, do visit the Outdoor Station website, which has all the details and all the links. The live tracker will indicate where he is at any one time, and if you wish to join him for a meal or maybe get a few friends together for a run, I'm sure he would appreciate the company and any sustenance you might bring with you. If you have any media contacts getting closer to John O'Groats, do pass on word of his challenge. These days when we are totally absorbed with gear and what you should have for something like this, Aleks is showing quite clearly just what you actually need. As he now heads towards Scotland, the terrain once again takes on a whole new character. One that I hope to hear more about when I speak with him finally at the end of his adventure. We wish him well. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To hear or see more from our extensive free library, please visit theoutdoorstation.co.uk.